Hey everybody, Steve Billman here. Thanks for joining me. We continue our series, Harmony for Songwriters. And this video I'm calling 6B because it's going to be an extension of video 6, which in that we covered modal interchange. We talked about the definition of it and how it's used. I want to expand on that a little bit because I wasn't able to get to everything that I wanted to get to. So what we're going to cover in this video is I'm going to come up with another progression utilizing modal interchange. But instead of starting in major and going to minor, we're going to start in minor and we're going to borrow from the parallel key of major. So as always, we're in G minor. We're going to borrow from the parallel key of G minor, which is G major. We're going to borrow a chord from actually 2 or 3 chords from that, okay? So remember that modal interchange works either way. You can start in a minor key or you can start in a major key and borrow. So we're going to do that. Then the next thing I want to do is just show you a couple common uses of modal interchange, stuff that you probably will hear and recognize, and so that you have a complete sort of grasp of the possibilities of modal interchange. And then the last thing I want to do is I'm going to play a song for you by a well-known artist that actually uses the modal interchange concept. And there's a few people that have written songs this way. They use the concept for sections of the song. So in other words, the verse, the A section, will be in a minor key. And then when it goes to the chorus, it'll go into the parallel major key. And I'll play the progression for you of that song, and you can kind of see how it's being used. One thing, again, that I just want to emphasize is that, these are not just concepts, you guys, to study. These are concepts to be used. And when you study the music of great writers, you see these concepts in their music. It comes through. So understand this isn't just something to learn, but it's actually something to apply to your music, and that's what we hope will do. Okay, this particular progression too is going to be in a 6/8 kind of feel. I'm going to start again. We're starting in G minor, and we're going to borrow from the parallel key G major. So first chord G minor, C major, E flat major, B flat major, G minor, C major, E flat major, D major, G major. Okay, so let's look at that progression. Let's kind of unravel it. So the first chord was G minor. It's the 1 chord. We're starting in G minor. Now, usually in G minor, the 4 chord will be C minor, but I went to C major, right? So what is that? Well, that is modal interchange. C major does not exist in the key of G minor, but it does exist in the key of G major. It's the 4 chord. So I'm borrowing from the parallel major key in this case. C major is the 4 chord in G major. Then I go back, E flat is in the key of G minor again, and so is B flat. E flat major is the 6th chord, B flat is the 3 chord in G minor. Go back, play G minor again, the 1 chord in G minor, 4 chord, G major, modal interchange. And then I go E flat, 6th chord in G minor, D major, that's the 5 chord in the key of G major, and then I end on G major chord. So you can see that in this progression that is really G minor, I'm in G minor, I have a C major chord, modal interchange, the 4 chord of G major. I have a a D major chord, which is the 5 chord of G major, and then the 1 chord of G major is there as well. So there again, my foundation is G minor, but I'm pulling chords here and there from the parallel key of G major. And right away, when I play that G minor chord, my ear wants to hear this, right? But it's hearing this. So right away, it sort of pulls at my ear as a surprise and sort of lifts me up. And then when I go back to the E flat, then it's like, oh, okay, well, no, I'm still in G minor, right? So, and then the last part of it, when I go E flat, D, and then G major, that's where my ear really is struck, because it's like all of a sudden I'm in a brighter key. It's G major. So those are the kind of things you can come up with creatively for your progression by messing around with, you know, the parallel keys. Whether you start in a major key or a minor key, it's all accessible and it all works. Your final judge, you guys, in all of this, no matter what I show you guys, the final judge is going to be your ear. Does it sound good to you? Even if theoretically it might be correct, if it doesn't sound good to you, then don't use it, because it has to sound good to your ear. All right. Okay. So let's go now to a couple progressions that are very common, and they're used by a lot of different writers. And again, some of them might not understand the concept of modal interchange theoretically, but they definitely understand the sound of it and how to use it. Okay, so one of those, if we're in the key of G major, one of those progressions, and this happens a lot on, like, especially rock tunes that are vamping out. So E flat major to F major, and then to G major, right? So you hear that a lot, especially that kind of a progression, right? That kind of feel, I mean. Right? So it's been in 1,000 tunes. Now, if we look at the chords, we have an E flat major chord. Okay, we're in the key of G major. We have an E flat major chord to an F major chord to a G major chord. Now, if we try to analyze that in the key of G major, it's not really going to work. E flat is not in the key of G major. The only E that we have is an E minor chord. F is not in the key of G major. It's an F sharp minor 7 flat 5, right? But if we look at it in terms of modal interchange, our target chord is the last chord, G major. That's where we're going. That's sort of the resolution point that we're looking at. So if we look at it in the key of G major, we're not going to find the answer. But if we look at it in terms of modal interchange, that we're in the key, or we're borrowing from the key, not in the key. If we're borrowing from the key of G minor, E flat is the 6th chord in the key of G minor. F major is the 7 chord in the key of G minor. And then the 1 chord of G major. So again, these progressions that I know you've heard 1,000 times, these are using the concept of modal interchange. Whether the writers know it or not, it's modal interchange. E flat, F, G major, right? So that's a very common progression that's used, and obviously you can use it. The other one is sort of what we covered before, which is C major. So we're in the key of G major, the 4 chords C major, going to C minor, going to 1 major. Let me play it in more of a groove. And I think I used that in the progression in the previous video. And the Beatles use that a lot. I'm really into studying Beatles music. It's brilliant. And they used 4 to 4 minor all the time. Again, that's modal interchange. The 4 chord in G major is a major chord. When you go to a minor chord, 4 minor chord, you're using the concept of modal interchange. You're changing to the parallel key. Okay? So again, there's some common ways of using this concept. It's up to you to experiment with it and to find creative ways to use it. You want to be careful not to be too cliche with it and just do it because everybody's doing it. There's a way to be creative with it and try to figure out a way to incorporate it without it sounding, overused. But these concepts are there and they're good for you to experiment with. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you guys. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about then is this concept of using modal interchange in the sections of the song, as opposed to, when we're using modal interchange in this way, I don't really think of it as changing keys. We're not really modulating, and I'll get to that in the next video if you don't understand what that is, but we're not really changing keys. We're just borrowing chords from the parallel keys. Because it's just one chord here and there. It's not like a full section. But with this concept of modal interchange, I do think of it in terms of key changes, because we're doing a whole section in a minor key. And let's say the verse, we're doing the verse in a minor key. And then when we get to the chorus, we're going to the parallel major. So to me, that is changing keys. And it's a rather powerful way to use the concept of modal interchange. And I'm going to play a song for you. This is a song that was written by Elton John. And I want to be real careful and respectful of the copyright, but I just want to play the progression so that you can see how Elton uses this concept of modal interchange from the starting in the minor key on the verse and then going into the major key in the chorus. So he starts in D minor. Okay, so here is the progression. So starts in D minor, as I said. D minor, the 1 chord, to C major, the 7 chord, to G minor, the 4 chord, to F, the 3 chord, back to D minor, and then the 5 chord, and then back to 1. So that's definitely D minor, okay? And then he does it again. C major, 7 chord, G minor, 4 chord, F major, 3 chord, D minor, 1 chord, A7 to be exact, 5 chord, and then what he does is, instead of going to the 1 minor chord, then he goes to 1 major, 4, 5, and then he goes into the chorus. So let me play that for you, and you can hear the surprise in the chorus. All right, so here we go. I'm going to play it for you now. Seven, 2, 3. Now here comes D major. Brightness. Now we go to E minor, the 2 chord. 5, 1, 6, 2, 1 major. Now watch what happens. Verse. 1 minor. Goes back into the verse there. So you can see, especially when we come out of that D major at the end of the chorus, and we go back into the D minor, you emotionally, it just hits you really hard. So this is a perfect example of using this modal interchange concept for the sections. In the verses, he's D minor. It's pretty much all D minor. It is all D minor. And then when it goes into the chorus, that last time after the A7 chord, we're used to hearing it go back to this D minor, but instead it goes to this D major. And immediately the sun comes out. Immediately the power of that major key, now we experience it. And the same thing happens when we end that last time of the chorus. We go to D major, and then immediately back to the verse. It's D minor. And vocally, he comes right in on the D minor, so it doesn't give you a chance to kind of adjust. It's just right there. It's a beautiful, kudos to Elton John, because it's a beautiful example of modal interchange used in sections. Okay? All right, you guys, I hope that helped, and I hope that you're able to incorporate this in your writing. And thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care.